Now, of course, we come to the moment both teams really have been waiting for, to do the job they know best of all, and the chance to flex their muscles on the Wembley turf. A chance for us to catch up on the team lineup for the game. And first, Manchester City. They field an unchanged side, with Gerard Keegan having only his second game in a number 2 shirt. The only other decision for manager Tony Book was to name Kenny Clements as the substitute. As for Newcastle United, what problems they've had all week with flu. 6 of this team could only report to the Cup headquarters on Friday, and players like goalkeeper Mick Mahoney spent 4 days last week in bed with a high temperature. But even if they are not all fully fit, and even if their preparations have been ruined, it's the expected Newcastle side with Paul Cannell the sub. The crowd now waits for the whistle from referee Jack Taylor of Wolverhampton. Tommy Booth right up there, Watson right up there. You would get the impression they're going to float one deep to the other side of that penalty area. Might be a con trick. Hartford with it though, yes. They're playing it across there towards Mike Doyle, who got the header in. Might come anywhere. Yes, it's there by Peter Barnes. The 19-year-old has put Manchester City into the lead. Peter Barnes, the man who scored it, whose father's been here before with Manchester City into a final. The long free kick taken by Asa Hartford. Mike Doyle winning it very well in the air at the far side. Newcastle with a lot of players back, unable to do anything about it. And look how it comes there for Peter Barnes to hook it in before Mahoney can get there. So Manchester City 1, Newcastle United 0. Peter Barnes, the scorer for Manchester City. Hartford now for Manchester City. Kennedy. Newcastle coming back into it again a bit now. Craig. Cassidy. Played now for McDonald, onto the right foot. Gowling is there! Well, Gordon Lee is on his feet, punching the sky as well he might. Gowling has scored the equalizer when it seemed that Newcastle were beginning to sag. Made for him with a cross by Malcolm McDonald. Tommy Craig again spraying the ball out. Cassidy, who's having a lot to say for himself, onto the right foot of Malcolm McDonald, and there's Gowling just knocking it in. 1-1. The 24th goal that Alan Gowling has scored this season, and none of them, I imagine, would have brought him greater pleasure. Now McDonald. Royal, Oakes, Donachie. Got Barnes outside him. Donachie prepared, though, to float it in towards Tommy Booth. Oh, and what a goal by Tueart! What a goal! Mahoney couldn't have seen it. A most acrobatic overhead kick. Joe Corrigan can only look in wonder himself at the other end. Tueart, a really spectacular goal. Donachie's floated cross, Booth heading it back, and look at that for sheer acrobatics. 2-1 to Manchester City. Dennis Tueart, the scorer of a truly amazing goal, his 20th of the season. So a corner. I doubt if there'll be much more than a few seconds left. Perhaps not even time for them to take it. No, the whistle has gone, I think. No, it hasn't. But now it has. Joe Corrigan falls to the ground. Peter Barnes, the man who scored the first goal, hugs on the bench. And Joe Corrigan, who's had such a checkered career. There's one player down in it there, the number 4, Mike Doyle. Mike Doyle, the skipper, who has played tremendously, picking himself up at last with Paul Power, one of the substitutes there. Tommy Craig, the two skippers embrace. Mike Doyle going across to the City fans. And they really fought hard for so long. Corrigan and McDonald there. that his team had given him all they possibly could. Really wasn't quite enough. Colin Bell, I noticed, in the centre. That's the face of defeat. And they really are just about out on their feet. And Malcolm McDonald, that's twice in 2 years he's been to Wembley. And twice he's been on the losing side, and that's just about how it's hit him. Malcolm McDonald, one of the biggest names in the game, feeling at this moment a very lonely man indeed. Well, he's a fairly extrovert sort of guy, Malcolm McDonald, but he's being told now that it's time to go up and get a loser's medal, because in the League Cup final, it's the losers who come up first. Tommy Craig getting his medal there from the Duke of Norfolk. Now the time for the winners to come forward, led by their skipper Mike Doyle, who had, as usual, one of his great reliable games, particularly in the very last seconds of the game when he cut out that attack of Malcolm McDonald's. Mike Doyle receiving the cup from the Earl Marshal, His Grace the Duke of Norfolk. Peter Swales smiling there, the Manchester City chairman. And Manchester City have won it. The happiest moment of any footballer's career. And a sign that means that Manchester City go into Europe in the UEFA Cup again next season. Joe Corrigan, Dave Watson, blood right across that jersey of his, Arne Oakes and Joe Royal, Gerard Keegan, who certainly didn't let them down in that number 2 shirt, Willie Donaghy there too, Asa Harp, a tremendous game in the middle of the field, Peter Barnes, scorer of the first goal, 19 years old, Tommy Booth, who laid on the second one, and right at the back of the Newcastle shirt I noticed was Dennis Tueart, the man who scored the second and spectacular goal. Having already swapped his shirt with Alan Kennedy.